Proposition 24 with Anita Lee presenting.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. Proposition 24 relates to the privacy of data collected from consumers. So a little bit of background on this one. Businesses do collect information about consumers from different places. There are public sources, from you consumers yourselves, as well as from other businesses. And they use it for a variety of purposes, including providing whatever service you're interested in, to targeting ads, to also making predictions about consumers. Under state law, certain businesses that operate in California and collect personal data, such as names, internet activity, or predictions about individuals, etc., are required to meet certain consumer data privacy requirements. At a high level, the businesses are generally those that earn more than $25 million in annual revenue, that buy, sell, or share the personal data of 50,000 or more consumers, households, or devices annually, or earn 50% or more of their annual revenues from selling that personal data. Key requirements that they are required to comply with is that they're required to notify consumers if they collect or sell data. They have to allow consumers to request information about the data that's collected about them, and to allow consumers to delete that data or tell businesses to delete that data, as well as to direct businesses to not sell it. In addition to that, they are not allowed to treat consumers who make use of any of these rights differently. There are financial penalties that can be levied if businesses do not comply, and they're generally enforced by the California Department of Justice, or DOJ. So what this proposal would do is that it would really expand consumer privacy rights. Consumers would have certain new rights. So for example, consumers could direct businesses to not share their personal data, to correct data that is in their possession, and to limit a subset of data, which is now categorized as sensitive personal data. This includes things like your social security number, account logins, passwords, etc., so that they can only be used for providing the service that a person was interested in, or to fulfill a business purpose. It also, on the margins, makes changes to other rights, but one of the key things is it does change the number of businesses that would need to comply. It generally reduces the businesses that would have to comply. And kind of the final major change is that it does create a new state agency to complement the California Department of Justice. This new agency would be responsible for developing regulations, as well as enforcing the laws. To the extent that the Department of Justice was also enforcing the laws, California DOJ would have priority, and those would be cases that move through the court system. So in terms of the fiscal effects, we did identify that the increased state cost associated for the new state agency would be at least $10 million. The proposition actually specifically requires an appropriation of that amount. But depending on how they take on and kind of implement their duties, it could be potentially higher. There would also be increased cost to the California Department of Justice, as well as courts, for cases that are moving along on that side. So these are cases that DOJ chooses to tell the agency, hold off, we're going to take on these cases. To the extent that there are penalty revenues that are won, those penalty revenues are supposed to help offset sort of those costs. So some or all of those portions of the increased costs would be offset. Happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So we have, this one was put on the ballot by an individual who's a real estate developer and consumer privacy advocate. It's supported by the Peace and Freedom Party, and the Republican, Libertarian, Green parties are opposed. The Democratic Party did not take a position on this one. Once again, we have the LA Times as the outlier. They're in support, and most of the rest of the newspapers across the state that took a position are in opposition. In support, we have the firefighters, a few Democratic legislators, and Andrew Yang of the Yang Gang fame. And in opposition, we have the ACLU, business organizations, taxpayers organizations, the League of Women Voters, the Nurses Association, and Dolores Huerta. It's quite the combo there. And then on the funding, we have, again, the individual who got it on the ballot in the first place, giving the most money, and then other individuals and a group called Californians for Consumer Privacy. And then in opposition, we have the Nurses Association. The League of Women Voters gave a whole $234. So big spenders on that one. And the Consumer Federation of California. So super lopsided on this one. We have money in favor of it, but very little against. All right, I'm going to go back up to that slide that I failed to show while we do questions. So is this essentially a pay for privacy for the consumer?
I think the term pay for privacy means different things to different individuals. So I'm going to answer it in a way, and if this doesn't address it, feel free to insert it. So you're not paying a fee for privacy, so it's not pay that way. The way to think about it is the onus is on the consumer to initiate these rights. So it is the consumer that is requesting information from the business. It is the consumer that's requesting to correct information, et cetera. So there is a burden on the consumer rather than it being automatic.
Okay, thank you.